Let's talk about something that pretty much every online store owner worries about. You might be convinced you have a traffic problem, but what if I told you the real issue is something totally different? See, for most Shopify stores, the problem isn't really getting people to the site, it's getting them to actually buy once they're there. And today, we're going to break down exactly how to fix that conversion problem.
So, this really is the big question, isn't it? The one you've got to ask yourself about your business right now. Is your main problem getting eyeballs on your site, or is it getting the people who are already looking around to pull out their wallets? Because honestly, the answer to that question, it changes your entire game plan.
Think about it like this. You can keep pouring more water, more traffic, into a leaky bucket, which means spending more and more on ads, often attracting people who are just window shopping. Or you can focus on plugging the leaks in the bucket you already have. That's what focusing on conversions is all about. You're maximizing the value of the audience you already paid for, and that means more sales, a way better return on your investment, and a lower cost to get each customer. It's a no-brainer, right?
All right, so let's get into diagnosing this. How can you tell if you have a conversion problem instead of a traffic problem? It's not always as obvious as you think. Your traffic could be going up, but your sales are just flat. Let's dig into some of those classic red flags.
Okay, take a quick look at this list and be honest. Does any of this ring a bell for your store? You know that feeling when shoppers land on your site and they just don't seem to get it in those first few seconds? Or maybe your product pages look amazing, but they're not actually answering the tough questions your customers have. All these little things, these little bits of friction, they really add up, and a lot of the time, they're the real culprit behind why your sales aren't growing.
But here's the good news. There's a real systematic way to fix all of this. This isn't about just guessing what might work. It's an actual discipline, and it's called conversion rate optimization. You'll often hear it called CRO.
So what is CRO really? At its heart, it is a process. It's so important to get this. It's not about randomly changing button colors or just making your site look prettier. It's about making smart, strategic improvements to your store that actually guide visitors to do the things you want them to do.
And here's a key point. A conversion isn't always a sale. It could be someone adding a product to their cart, or signing up for your email list, or even just engaging with a really important page. Think of these as small wins. Some people call them micro-conversions. And every single one of them is a step that moves a customer closer to actually buying from you.
Okay, and this is where it gets really powerful. You don't need some massive overnight win. Just think about the math for a second. Let's say your store does $20,000 a month with a 1% conversion rate. A tiny little bump, just 0.5% up to 1.5%. That's an extra $10,000 in revenue every single month. That is the incredible power of making small, data-backed improvements over time.
So you're probably thinking, okay, I'm sold. How do I actually do this? Well, like I said, effective CRO isn't about throwing spaghetti at the wall. It follows a very clear, repeatable, 4-step system. And the whole thing is built on data, not just hunches.
And really, this quote says it all. This is the big mindset shift you have to make. You stop just guessing and redesigning things on a whim. Instead, you start following a structured system, making changes because you have evidence and a clear idea of what you expect to happen. It's much more of a science than it is an art.
So here's the roadmap. It's 4 simple steps. First, research and data. Then you optimize the user experience and messaging. Third, you test and iterate. And finally, you keep optimizing. Let's just quickly walk through what each of these means.
Okay, step 1, research. Everything, and I mean everything, starts with understanding what is actually happening on your store right now. This is where you become a detective. You dive deep into your analytics to see where people are leaving your site. You use really cool tools like heat maps to see exactly where people are clicking and where they're not. You can even watch session recordings to see a visitor's journey click for click. Your whole goal here is to find those hidden roadblocks you didn't even know existed.
All right, step 2. Now that you've got all this data, you can stop guessing and start making an educated guess, or what we call a hypothesis. It's simple, really. It's just a statement like, we believe that if we add customer reviews higher up on our product pages, more people will add to cart because it will build more trust. See? It's a clear theory. And based on that, you make very specific, targeted changes.
Now this next part, step 3, is absolutely crucial. You can't just make a change and assume it worked. You have to prove it. And that's where A/B testing comes into play. It's pretty straightforward. You show the old version of the page to half your visitors and the new, updated version to the other half. Then you let the data decide which one performed better.
It takes all the guesswork and, honestly, all the ego right out of the decision-making process.
And that brings us to step 4, ongoing optimization. You have to remember, this is not a one-and-done kind of deal. It's a cycle, a flywheel. You take what you learned from your last test, you use that insight to find the next biggest opportunity for improvement, and you start the whole 4-step process all over again. And the best part? These little improvements, they start to stack up and compound over time.
Okay, so the 4-step system makes sense. But where on earth do you start? Your store has a ton of pages. So let's talk about 4 really high-impact areas where even small changes can give you some big wins.
First up, your homepage, specifically that very first section that people see without having to scroll. We call that above the fold. This is your digital storefront window. You have like 3 seconds to make a first impression. In those 3 seconds, a brand new visitor needs to understand exactly what you sell and, more importantly, why they should care. Your main message and call to action have to be impossible to misunderstand.
Next, let's talk product pages. This is where the magic really happens. Or doesn't. This is where your customer makes that final yes or no decision. So your product page has a job to do. It can't just be a boring list of features. Its job is to build confidence and crush objections. You need to think about every single question or worry a customer might have, about sizing, materials, shipping, returns, and answer it right there on the page. Number 3, navigation and collections. This one's just common sense, right? If your customers can't find what they're looking for, they simply cannot buy it. It's that simple. Having a super clean menu and really easy-to-use filters on your category pages can make a world of difference. It just cuts down on frustration and leads people right to the good stuff. And last, but definitely not least, the mobile experience. Let's be real, for most of us, the majority of our traffic is coming from phones. So your site can't just be a tiny, shrunken-down version of the desktop site. It needs to be designed for thumbs. That means big buttons that are easy to tap and a checkout process that is just dead simple to fly through on a tiny little screen.
So as we wrap this up, I want you to think about the big picture. All of this, it's not about a quick fix or a short-term hack. It's really a fundamental shift in how you approach growing your business for the long haul. And if you remember one thing from this, let it be this. CRO is not a project with an end date. You don't just do CRO and then you're done. It's a core part of how you run your business. It's this continuous loop of learning more about your customers and using that knowledge to make your store better for them, one small improvement at a time. So I'll leave you with a little homework. I want you to really think about your own store and ask yourself this. What is the single biggest point of frustration for my customers right now? If you can figure that out, well, you've just found the perfect place to start. That's your first step to turning more of those hard-earned visitors into happy customers.